Today we're going to talk about setting race goals and intentions. Full disclosure, I've tried to film this video like probably 3 or 4 times and I've had to scrap it due to technical issues. I've been trying to up my game to 4K and my computer's not strong enough, or the hard drives aren't fast enough. Anyway, I'm feeling good about this attempt. I'm just going to go for it. I hope this one comes out. God, the road to technical efficiency is not always easy, especially when you're trying to make sure that you're elevating your performance. Regardless, talking about race goals, talking about intentions. As a quick intro, typically when people talk about intentions, I kind of find it to be, a little bit thrown out there a lot these days, like have an intention, set an intention. I just see it thrown around a lot. And for me, it's a very practical, very tangible process that I've developed over the year, and I thought that I'd share some insights along the way. I wrote it down in my notebook. I like the roll bond kind of notebooks. You should check them out if you dig them. It's got a little piece on the back where you can put like little receipts and stuff. Anyway, it's a nice book. I also use a space pen. Not the best writing potential in the Fisher space pen. I think they had this on the Apollo mission. I'm not 100% positive, but it's can like write upside down or in space and stuff like that. It's just not the best writing power, but I like the way it makes me feel. Anyway, writing stuff down is a big deal. We'll get to that later. All right. So as I'm breaking down, getting into setting a race goal, I'm coming at this from an angle that I've tried to set race goals and intentions for years now. I think specifically 4 half Ironmans, 4 full Ironmans, marathons, like often coming up short with the way that I've delivered on those performances, and primarily having to do with the types of intentions I was setting and needing to learn and refine that process along the way. So I'm helping to get you straight to the finish on this to kind of give you a quick tip guide on how to kind of defrag that process and go about it. It's quick steps. Step 1, the first one I learned and really internalized after a training block with the Telos group and Coach Steve Sisson after the Houston Marathon, where I thought I set a good race intention and a good race goal, and it just wasn't that optimized. And after the fact, I had some really kind of fruitful conversations with Coach Sisson, and it was like very obvious that like I kind of went about it the wrong way. And he offered, consider setting a race intention that's not revolving around a specific time goal. Consider running a beautiful race. That's a whole universe of information that we could probably talk about. What is a beautiful race? What is our limits? What is the perception of like pushing our limits, and what is operating within that maybe too conservative or going a little bit, out above and beyond. But like, what would that beautiful race be? But the essence in this is I see people all the time, including myself in the past, of setting time-based race intentions, when often it's a little bit arbitrary of a process. I mean, unless you're going for like an Olympic time trial qualifier or needing to beat that PR or getting the sub 3 milestone or a sub 4 milestone, like those are pretty good, clear race intentions. That's cool if you have them. But a lot of the times we find ourselves in like a different land. Not always are we going for a specific time goal. So to get wrapped up in a time goal seems a little bit beside the point. So there's a lot of like area in there to work from. So it's like trying to go from a 2 to a 10. We don't necessarily need to go from a 2 to a 10. We just need to get from a 2 to a 2.5 to a 3, 3.5 to a 4, stuff like that. So consider running a beautiful race. It's a really cool way to start the process. Is not all really consider if a time goal is exactly what you want to go for, or are you really looking for that experience, that beautiful race to test yourself, to test your willpower, to see what your training kind of like can bestow to you on race day, all that good stuff. So step 1, consider releasing the time goal and consider a beautiful race. Number 2, give it time. I often find that this process just doesn't come naturally. It's one of those things, it's almost like that saying, a writer's trash can is always full. If you're gonna write a hit song, you're not just gonna go whip out a hit song like every time. You're gonna probably write dozens and dozens of like kind of shitty lyrics or melodies and stuff like that to kind of stumble upon this hit song. And a race goal and a race intention, I treat it the same way. Give it time. you know, feel free to brainstorm about it and kind of check yourself and kind of realize that there's not always, you know, a quick fix to this or a quick write it down, forget it, set it and forget it. It's a process. Give yourself a little grace and give it time. It can take weeks or even months or sometimes years in some race experience to learn how to do this. So have fun with it, but don't put a time constraint on it. Be realistic and try and give yourself a little bit of some boundaries to kind of go by, but don't really give yourself too hard of a time if it's difficult, because the process is difficult. Finding a beautiful and a pure race goal and an intention is often difficult. I'm just here to remind you of that one because I forget it myself sometimes. And number 3, set the intention or the goal when you're in a balanced state of mind, when your intensity is balanced. 2 scenarios. Imagine yourself in your training and you have a great, you know, threshold interval day. You go out to the track and you do like 10 200s and you're just feeling like you're on top of the world. You go home, you set a race intention like you're gonna go pro or you're gonna do, like I've been there, I've done that. Like we get wrapped up in the moment. The intensity is a little bit leaning towards the manic side, or on the depressive side, sometimes we're a little bit fatigued and we think that we need to build that intention when we're a little bit tired and we're not thinking straight and the training is at the peak and it's really difficult. Remember that there's a moment in between of the balanced intensity where you'll be able to catch that kind of clarity of thinking, be able to create a very, very clear intention or a goal. Try and find a few of those moments and really focus on them, and that's the time to brainstorm. Make sure you do it at a very even intensity. Find that that works, it's healthy. I've often set race goals and forgotten to reevaluate them when the time is right. And that's number 4, is reevaluate and practice brutal honesty when you're talking about these goals and intensity. Don't be afraid to reevaluate. As time goes on, you'll find that your intensity is a little bit, you know, or your intention is fluid. Your goal is fluid. It's, these things can change and it's okay to reevaluate them so long as, I believe, when you're in a balanced state and you're taking a brutal, honest approach about where you are at that time. Because racing and training is about where we are here and now, not where we want to be in a year from now. You know, it's sometimes we have to plan for the future, but live in the moment. That's kind of the essence here, is don't be afraid to reevaluate at the right time. And the 5th step, which is kind of old, tried and true, use a pen, use a pad, write it down. Writing it down kind of takes a lot of the process and it ceremonializes it, and it helps you kind of, you know, give it a little bit of like equity. Like, bam, I wrote that down. I'm going to be able to look at it. I'm going to check it off. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to rip the page out and throw it away and write something else down. Like, that to me is a really good process. It's old school. It's tried and true. It helps kind of bridge the mental and the physical. And there's something about the practice of writing it down that's just very special. And what I've done is I have a race coming up. It's a half distance triathlon, a half long distance, so 70.3 distance. It's an Ironman race. It's in Waco, and it's a few weeks from now. And I have a race intention that I have, and I thought that I'd share it because I'm proud about this one. And it kind of gave me the idea for this because maybe for the first time ever, I've got a race intention that I'm really, really pumped about because it's taken me a long time to kind of go through the motions and realize that, you know, I had to reevaluate it when I was in a manic state, and I had to reevaluate it when I was in a depressive state in the training. So triathlons are swim, bike, run. So I've separated it out into 3 different categories: swim, bike, and run. For the swim, my goal is to swim smooth, swim strong, swim efficient. Power can only come if control is maintained. The essence in that is I've been working with the UT Master Swim Group and learning how swimmers swim. My primary goal has been exploratory. It's to learn the process of how swimmers swim, different strokes, backstroke, breaststroke, butterfly, all that good stuff. And I want to put that to work in a race environment. I want to understand the efficiencies that are unlocked during the open water freestyle. I think that's going to be a good process. And what I don't want to do, the big thing that I don't want to do is fail to maintain control to really feel that catch, to feel an open water catch the whole time. Because if I can't do it in the half distance, I damn sure won't be able to do it in the full distance come April in 2024. So my intention is to benchmark what it feels like to swim with power with a nice strong catch in control for that distance. And that's it. If I go too hard or find myself racing it and losing control, I'm going to dial back. That's the plan. That's the goal, is to dial it back. Whether or not I execute on that is a different story. But like, that's basically going into it, being very clear about what that is I'm going to do when I hit the water. Coming out of the water, getting onto the bike, set benchmarks for the full distance race pace. Upper aerobic threshold, is race pace. Let's see if we can outpower the training numbers. Yeah. So basically here, I've been training at, looking at power, keeping, a nice upper aerobic threshold kind of intensity. And that seems to be coinciding. It's like two different variables meeting at the cross section in the middle. And I seem to have a rough estimate of what those power numbers are at that particular heart rate. For me, it's around 148, 145, 146, in that zone, the mid 140s zone. And I know my power at that zone. So after the taper, what is that power going to look like on race day, out in the open field, on a bike, cruising, wind in the face, wind at the back? What's that going to feel like? How is that going to translate? We're going to try and reconcile those two things and get some benchmarks for the full distance training, for April 2024 for the next race. So we're setting benchmarks on the bike. It's a whole different game, because typically I'd go out there and I would just hammer and hope to have some energy left for the run. So being very clear about what this is, really understanding where I am at this moment with my training, getting off the bike, throwing on the running shoes. We're going to benchmark for 7 miles for sure. For me, what that's going to, it says benchmark for 7 miles, then let it rip. Basically, I'm going to go for 7 miles at around an 8-minute pace, specifically because I want to see where my heart rate goes during those 7 miles. I want to see if it rests out and settles out after a few miles. And then after then, I want to see how I feel after that. From 7 to 10, I might ratchet up a little bit if that heart rate is under control. If it's not, I'll know that I need to do more zone 2 work and maybe work off the bike. But after that, during the let it rip, anywhere between like 8 and 10 miles, just see what happens. Go have some fun with it, because you earned it, because it's a race day, and finish the race. The cool thing is about this is that if I execute it properly, a symptom of that could be a personal best race. It could be a personal worst race. I don't really know, but a symptom, the outcome is not necessarily the time-based goal. It's not necessarily just go get the best time you've ever had. It's a very intentional process, and I actually think that it could yield a favorable result. But I'm going to let the data kind of tell me that ex post facto, and then we're going to relay all that, and we're going to get ready for our A race in 2024 for the full distance. This was the plan all along, and I will say that there are times along the way where I thought, man, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and just go burn rubber in Waco. Let's just go all out and see what we're capable of. I'm getting stronger in my legs, been doing, lots of strength work, lots of interval work, and let's just go like hammer a bike and just see what we're capable of. Those were moments of high intensity, high manic activity during the training, and I've had to talk myself down off of those kind of intentions, because I know that when I'm in a balanced and even intensity state, that this is the race that I want. This is what I'm going after. I know it to be true. That's a clear goal. That's a clear intention. I hope that you got a little bit from this. This is coming from years of racing without a protocol on that. If you find this useful, I'm so stoked about that. If you have a different process, I'm stoked about that too. So long as you're racing happy, racing with joy, and racing the way that you want to. If you needed any help along the way, I thought that I'd share it. Thank y'all so much for following along this week. Here in the lab, I call it the dungeon. It's my office. I need some natural light. I'm gonna go walk around outside, but we'll check y'all next week. Hope you're enjoying everything on the YouTube channel. Thank y'all so much. Like and subscribe if you like the content. I don't really care if you do or don't. I just hope that it brings you value. And I hope that we're doing a good job portraying what it's like as the underdog to go up against the biggest of the big in the industry, but knowing that we have what it takes. I'm stoked to be able to do it. I'm humbled every day. I hope that I can do this for as long as possible. Thank y'all for supporting this dream of building this company up so that we can serve you to the best of our abilities. Adios for now. We'll catch you later.